Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dan Blanchard with the Travel and Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history and with leadership and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. Today I'm in Mansfield, Connecticut at the Mansfield Training School and Hospital. This was a place for developmental disabilities. I'm going to go into this with some detail in a moment, but the first thing I want you to know, there's going to be some terms in here that are not politically correct anymore, but those were the terms they used in those days. And when people think of these sort of like hospitals, they tend to think of them being bad, like abuse and neglect and experiments and abuse and all that stuff. Well, the thing is, I want you to understand, they did not start out that way. I mean, families that had family members with disabilities were they were not equipped to handle those family members with disabilities, right? They could not give them the care that they needed. So these sorts of places way back were really good places. They were. They had the staff, they had the training, they had the knowledge, the expertise, the equipment, right? The room, right? They had all this stuff, and these were good places in the beginning. But as you know, things change, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's talk a little bit about the Mansfield Training Center, School and Hospital. It was here from, it's been in existence from 1860 to 1993, right? Here I'm standing on a 350-acre historic district here in Mansfield, Connecticut, 80 plus buildings here. And it started off as like a segregation, right? Sadly, that's one of the bad things in this. It's going to be like a segregation. It's going to be like, get these people out of the public's eye. Public's eye look at them and they go, we don't like that, whatever. So they segregate them to places like this, all right? But again, it was done in good faith that they were going to give them better care. Unfortunately, a lot of things are going to happen, policies, budget cuts, all that sort of stuff, and it's not going to go well, all right? So now listen, it wasn't always right here in Mansfield, Connecticut, down the road from Yukon. It started in 1860, all right? That's before the Civil War. Before the Civil War, this place has been around, right? All right? So in 1860, it started, remember I told you there's going to be some names that you might be offended by that are politically incorrect. But in 1860, it began as the Connecticut School for the Imbeciles at Lakeville, Connecticut. Not here in Mansfield yet, right? It's going to be in Lakeville first. All right, 1915, it's going to become, I guess they find that School for the Imbeciles inappropriate, but in 1950, it's going to become the Connecticut School for the Feeble-Minded. I guess feeble-minded they think is better than imbeciles, right? Listen, I've seen this in my own lifetime as a special education teacher. I'm a history teacher and a special education teacher, and I've seen these terms changing over the last 20 years. So it's the same sort of thing here. All right, so now in the 1960s, all right, let me back up a little bit first. 17, this place is going to merge with the Connecticut colony of the epileptics, right, here in Mansfield, and it's going to be here. And it gets big. It's real big. 1960s, you got over 1,600 residents, right? But you're going to have eventually, there's going to be like budget cuts, policies, all this stuff. It's going to create a staff shortage, which is going to mean neglect, right? If you got one person taking care of 50 people, they can't get to them. They can't get to them at a time that matter, right? It's going to be neglect. Of course, there's going to be like abuse, right? There are going to be some experiments. There's going to be lawsuits coming, all right? One of the famous ones here is Gladys Burr in 1979, right? She said something about how she was being used like a slave here, something like that. And she was wrongfully committed. Her mom just didn't want to take care of her anymore, so they brought her here, and they were like, yeah, okay, we'll take her, even though they knew she probably maybe shouldn't have been here, but they're like, yeah, we'll take her, whatnot, and she shouldn't have been here, and she wasn't. She sued, and she made a lot of money eventually from it, okay? Now, in this place, along with a lot of places, you used to get a thing that was called the treatment, all right? So what the heck is the treatment? Well, that's going to be like straitjackets, lobotomies. Yes, lobotomies did happen, right? There's a famous case in the Kennedy family for lobotomy, okay? Eventually, with the lawsuits, with the way the public is viewing places like this, things are going to start changing, and they're going to start moving people out of these facilities. Remember, they move people out of their homes, because they were saying they couldn't take care of them, which many of them couldn't. And they moved them to these places for better care, but it's going to change, right? And now they're going to start moving people out of these places. Some of them are going to be moved to on-campus cottages, but a lot of them are going to be moved to group homes. And group homes are all over the place today, right? Now, in fact, say 1993, the place is going to close, right? And then, guess what happens? UConn comes in, eventually buys some of these buildings, maybe not these dilapidated ones that you could see over my shoulder, but they're going to buy some of these buildings, right? And they're going to run some classes and offices and all that stuff. The Bergen Correctional Institution is going to have some of these buildings, right? One thing I forgot to mention, I should mention, one of the things they used to do here was this place was also, for the residents, this place was like a farm, right? And they figured, obviously it was for food, yes, give them good food, all that stuff, right? But they also said that it was like therapy based on labor, right? I mean, that could go a couple different ways. We know that maybe a little labor is good for you, fresh air, exercise, sunshine, farming, that's good stuff, right? But I also think about Hitler's German concentration camps, SS camps, about, labor set you free, it said, about the concentration camps to the Jews. I mean, that's kind of scary when you think about it that way. All right, so one of these things, this is what always happens. You're going to have some policies, you're going to have some public opinion, and over time, right, these things are going to change. It's going to be social change over time. Now, let me tell you about a few of the other things here. I've got some personal connections here, right? In the late 80s, early 90s, I did some Army training here, some urban warfare Army training here. I remember the Deuce and a Half, those big Army trucks, pulled up to one of these buildings. I climbed up on top of the Deuce and a Half. I jumped out of the Deuce and a Half. I jumped out of the top of the Deuce and a Half into one of these windows, second story. You can kind of see it up here, right? It wasn't this building, it was another building. All right, and there was like some bad guys in there, make pretend bad guys in there. And I flushed them down out of the room, down the stairs with my other Army buddies. We're outside the front door, would tackle them and freaking put tie tags on them. And that was like our urban warfare training we used to do here. Another thing that I've done here is there's a lot of roads here among these 80 buildings. And with these roads, I have helped my children learn how to drive. This is a great place to help your children learn how to drive. It's like a little mini town. The kids can just drive around here and learn how to drive, and there's like nobody else here for the most part, right? Now, there are YouTube videos all over the place of this Mansfield Training School and Hospital. They're all over the place, the videos. Almost all of them like urban exploration things. You go inside the buildings, there's all sorts of stuff, old stuff in there. Kind of looks like junk now, right? It's freaking disgusting. Sailors coming down, a little water in there. Everything's dirty, rusted. But some people really love that stuff. I mean, you can probably see, I think you can see the building, the roof there behind me. It's all torn in, right? So think about rainfall, animals, things growing, all that sort of stuff. And of course, when you got places like this, you're going to have the hauntings, right? People are going to say it's haunted, and maybe it is. Maybe it is haunted, right? There's some pretty cool stuff here. Now, today, like I said, this place is being used by UConn, the Bergen Correctional Institution, and today it's also parts of it. Today there's also the Mansfield Training School and Memorial and Museum. Yes, go figure, right? Museum. All right, this is a historical site. I forget what year, maybe 1997, but it's a historical site here. All right, so now when I do these shows, I always talk about the travel. If you have never come down and seen this place, it is definitely worth seeing this place. All right, it's all over YouTube. It's definitely a place to come and check out. All right, history. I've already given you a little bit of history on this place. But what's the leadership lesson of something like this? Well, I would say the leadership lesson is, here it is, how a society treats its most vulnerable people defines its character. All right, it's easy to put your vulnerable people hidden somewhere. It's easy to say that's not my problem, but a true leader doesn't do that. True leader looks out for the most vulnerable people as well as everybody else. And sometimes, and the most vulnerable people, maybe it's even more important to look out for them because they are less able to take care of themselves. So what kind of leader are you going to be? One that only goes with the good, or one that's going to look out for all people, even the most vulnerable? Think about that. All right, everybody, thank you for spending some time with me today on the Travel and Time with Dan show, where we mix travel with history and with leadership, and of course with me, Dan Blanchard. Going to be back real soon with another great show, and until then, take care now.